factor the following polynomial. I would like to take this polynomial, I'm going to call it f of x, 2x cubed minus x squared minus 13x minus 6, and I would like to factor it. What I need to do is I have two options. I can look at factors or I can look at roots. We have what's called the rational root theorem, and here's what it says. Take all of the factors of 6 and you'll have all the possible roots. We'll see why in just a minute. But let's look at all the factors of 6 and find all the possible roots. This is the rational root theorem. Now I'm going to take all the factors of the last coefficient, or the last term. What are the factors of 6? 1. How about negative 1? What else? 2 and negative 2. 3. Negative 3. 6 and negative 6. There can be no other whole numbers that will work for this for roots. You'll see why in just a minute. Now the other thing I have to do is look at the a term. If this is anything other than 1, then I have to divide all of these by all the possible factors of a. What are the factors of a? 1, negative 1, 2, and negative 2. We don't worry about positives and negatives because we already took care of that. So all I have to do is divide by 2. That gives me 1/2, negative 1/2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, but we already got that. 3 divided by 2, and negative 3 over 2. Do I have to take 6 over 2? Already got that. Now, somebody from the last class pointed out something. He said, well, how do you know that, where does this 1/2 come from? And I think it'll become clear in just a minute. These are all the possible rational roots. There can be no others. And I think you'll see why in a minute if we look at the factors that go with these. What factor goes with the root of 1? X minus 1. Couldn't an x minus 1 possibly give us this at the end? Yeah? And this at the beginning? Is it possible? How about x plus 1? What goes with this one? X minus 2, x plus 2, x minus 3, x plus 3. Do y'all see that this is possible? That it's possible? That those will work? Do you see why x plus 4 would never work? You can't multiply by a number and get 4 times something else, a whole number, and get 6, right? How about 6? X plus 6? What factor goes with 1/2? 2x minus 1. Can't I possibly get this from a 2x minus 1? And this one? 2x plus 1 and 2x minus 3 and 2x plus 3. Do you see that there can be no others? Y'all follow? There can't be any other ones. Look. What if I take, I don't know, 3x plus 1? Why can't this give me this? 3 is not a factor of 2, you see? What about 5x minus 7? Can that give me this? It's not going to work. The only possible ones are factors of 6 divided by factors of the leading coefficient, whatever it is. Got it? That's called the rational root theorem. Now what we're going to do is we're going to test all of these roots and see which one is the right one, because we want to factor this thing. Now the worst possible scenario is that none of them work. But I'm going to test the first one. If I want to test 1, what factor do I need to check for 1? For a root of 1. I'm going to check x minus 1 and see if it's a factor of 2x cubed minus x squared minus 13x minus 6. Go ahead and divide it. Or not. You know, wait and see if I'll teach you tomorrow during the quiz. Possibly. It's factoring, right? If we want to factor it, we got to find the factors, no? Can't do it in your head. There is a little shortcut we learned today, but it's not a huge one, but it is pretty helpful. Divide it. What should I start with? 2x squared. Gives me 2x cubed minus 2x squared. Be sure you change the signs. Don't wait for me. Okay. It doesn't work? Shoot. I know. Alright, finish this one. What's next? Plus x. That's x squared minus x. Change the sign and add. What do we get?
Negative 12x.
Negative 12x minus 6. What do we need next?
Negative 12.
Minus 12. That's negative 12x plus 12. Change the sign of both.
Negative 18.
The negative 18 is my remainder. And 1 is not a root. So let's try something else. And here's the shortcut. For those of you who remember, there is a thing called synthetic division. I do it slightly different than your author does in your textbook. If you want to use the author's method, what you'll find is he tends to simplify it a little bit more than I do. And it's faster and a little bit easier, but you got to do a lot more of the work in your head. I like to write it out more. So here's what we do for synthetic division. We write down the root we're going to test. We're going to test the root of 1. Inside, we're going to write down all the coefficients of our polynomial. You must include 0 coefficients if there are any. In other words, if there was no x term here, I would have to include a 0 there. I'm going to write down all the coefficients. What goes in here? 2, negative 1, negative 13, negative 6. This is called synthetic division. All I'm going to do, draw a line. Now in your book, they don't do it this way. He does it slightly different, but I think it's easier this way. I bring down my 2. Now, I multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. It's always the same technique. I take 1 times 2 and add. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. Multiply, add.
Negative 4.
Multiply, multiply,
Negative 18.
and add.
Negative 18.
This says, if I divide x minus 1, so this says, x minus 1, that's the factor that goes with this root, into 2x cubed minus x squared minus 13x minus 6, I get, read it, 2x squared plus 1x minus 12, remainder negative 18.